Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leah Smalley. I'm the Assistant Director of Financial Aid Services at the Coordinating Board. Thank you so much for joining me today. It looks like we have a small group on the line or online today, which is great because that will allow us the ability to go through some questions and some scenarios together. This should be a shorter webcast for you, so I'm hoping to give you the gift of time. But really the goal today is to go through our user access annual review. So each year we do a pretty thorough review of our accounts through the institutions to make sure that the people who have access should have access and those that should not are removed. So it's a once a year process that the directors are required to participate in. And so today what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through it pretty high level, and then I'm going to actually do a little demo of kind of a mock user access review. And then I'll go through any questions that the group has. Again, this is being recorded, so please be mindful of any background noise. Keep your microphones on mute. And if you have questions, if you can hold those to the end just to reduce the amount of noise and so that I can answer those at the end. So let's get started. So on today's agenda, what I have is just going through some basic user access information that was sent out. And then I'm going to do a process overview. So I'm going to go through the various steps of the process. And then I'm actually going to be doing a live demo for y'all to show you how you should be completing the annual review. And then at the end, like I mentioned, we'll go through some questions or any feedback that you have for me. So about a week ago on October 15th, we sent out a memo through our Gov delivery system to notify directors that it's time for the annual review. The annual review starts every year around this time. It's usually between October and December. And again, the goal is to ensure security. So we want to make sure that all users that have access are appropriate and that we collect that information at the coordinating board. As you know, working at an institution, there's lots of turnover. People move, they get promoted, they switch departments. There's a lot of shifting going on. And so in order for us to be informed about that, we use this process and then our general user access process throughout the year to make sure that we have the accounts updated at all times. So this memo is located on our website, which is the coordinating board's main website, and then we have a dedicated student financial aid programs page. Under Stay Connected, the memo's been posted there, and as you'll see on the screen, it has the various steps and all the hyperlinks included. But in the event you didn't get a copy of it, you can find it on our webpage. The memo is broken down into 3 basic steps. So that's what I'm really going to go through today. I figure that's the most efficient use of our time, is just breaking it down. So the director must complete the following 3 steps. The first step is to review the list that was sent. I'm going to show you that. Step 2 is to send any changes to the list. And then step 3 is to complete a survey. So again, it's just 1, 2, 3. I know it's more complicated than that, but I try and keep it as simple as possible, just in case this is the first time you're doing it. The deadline to submit both the survey and the form, if you have to do a form, is November 13th of this year. So you only have a few more weeks to complete it. And just so you know, we've already received quite a few of those coming through, which is great. That means that people received our notice and they're working on these changes. So let's talk about the process a little bit more as an overview, and then I'm going to toggle out of the presentation and do a demo. So like I mentioned before, the first step is reviewing the user accounts. And on the screen here, here's the example that I'm going to go through in just a moment, but you'll see on the screen all the different types of web portals, the institution name, and then the first and last name of the staff member at your institution, and then their email. So this is all the information that's on the spreadsheet. And again, I'm going to go through that in just a moment. But this is what each institution is required to review. So you're going to just look at your institution, and the list is comprehensive. It has all 145 institutions on it. So you will just need to look at your school. Once you look at the user accounts, you complete the user access form if changes are necessary. So I'm going to be going through this step by step to show you what that looks like. But a couple things on here is that if you have things that need to be added or removed you complete a form. If you don't have anything that needs to be changed, if all of your accounts are okay, you don't have to do this form. There's always that confusion every year on which steps you're required to do. Also on the form, some reminders is that for different portals, there's different access that can be updated. So for, I don't know why they're out of order, so I apologize. Helmnet, you can request, remove, or update credentials, and I'll be showing you that section. For CBPass has multiple applications within it, and so depending on your role, you may have access to different things. So on this form, we have three different portals three different applications that you can request the removal of access, which includes grant payments, financial aid database, and good neighbor program. The last thing on there is Move It. This form is used to update authorized designees, and we'll go through that on the form in a little bit more detail. So once you have completed this user access form, the last step, step 3, is to complete the survey. The survey, the only purpose of this is just to confirm that you did the review of your accounts, and it also indicates whether a form is going to be submitted. All institutions have to complete the survey. Even if your list is flawless, you still have to send that through. And the reason is because we have two options on there. The first is, are your accounts correct? And the other one is, updates are needed. So again, I will actually pull up the survey and we'll complete it together, but there's only two options, so it's very easy. So like I said, I'm going to do a demo. I wanted to actually talk through a couple more things with y'all. So I'm going to exit out. I'm going to check to make sure everything's good on my end. Can a few people just confirm that you can see the spreadsheet that's on here? It says I can see your PowerPoint. From Teresa, can people see the spreadsheet? Okay, great. So one thing I'm going to do before we look at the spreadsheet is I'm going to show you where the memo was saved. So if I go to this is the main coordinating board webpage. At the very top, you have all the different tabs. If you go to institutional resources and programs under student financial aid programs, and then you go to that stay connected that I mentioned before. At the very top, we have our recent communications, and the most recent is our user access web portals annual review. So when you click on that, you'll see the memo that I just mentioned and that was on the PowerPoint. And within the memo, it has everything hyperlinked for you. So you can click on the spreadsheet, the update form that you can send the changes, and then the actual survey. So like I said, let me pull up. I doctored this a little bit because I wanted it to not be a real school. So hopefully you can see that on my screen. So we've got two institutions on this spreadsheet. When you open it up, you're going to see all 140 something spreadsheet or institutions. So when you look through here, we do have filters at the top that you can use to either filter or sort the list. My recommendation for sure is just to filter it so that way you can just see your school and not anything else. But for demonstration purposes, I have two schools here that we're going to look at. So in this first column over here, it designates which web portals the person has access to. So you may see multiple lines for multiple people, and that's because depending on their role, they may have access to all of them or just one of them. So for example, on ABC University, we have all of our Disney characters over here, and some of them have multiple lines. When you're looking at the spreadsheet, the blue line is going to indicate the director. So it should always be the current director. If you find that that's not accurate, maybe you're the new director, or if you don't have a director right now and they're listed, then that would indicate you need to submit a change. And I'll go through that in just a moment, but that's what the blue color is showing you. In this example on ABC University, you see Daisy Duck is the director. You see that if you scroll all the way down here, Daisy Duck, and I'm just going to go ahead and sort this since I told you we're going to filter. So let's filter it. So Daisy Duck is actually listed twice. Daisy Duck has a CBPass FAD account, and they also have Move It. So maybe, for example, Daisy Duck needs to have Helmnet. So you could send that through as a new update to your annual review. Maybe you have another employee that's on here. Say, let's look at Pluto. Pluto the dog is actually not employed with you anymore. So that's an account that you need to remove from Helmnet because as of right now, Pluto can still log in and access that, which again is a security issue. So for your school, you need to go through, it's very limited information on here. We decided not to list some of the other items on here because it's just a lot to confirm. So all you're confirming is, do they have the correct access, the name, and then the email address. Okay, so let's look at this other school and see if we can look at another example. So this is another example. So we have Don Johnson here is the director, and then we have all the staff members. So for Don, you'll notice he has Move It, he has Helmnet. See Betty White here has Helmnet, she has Fads. So different people may have different things. And depending on the size of your school, you may have quite a few accounts to go through, which is perfectly fine. But that can take some time to create the user access spreadsheet or the form to send in those changes. So you want to budget your time when you're doing this process to make sure that you're allowing enough time to get those changes through to us. Okay, so I showed you the spreadsheet. Again, you can either choose to scroll through it, scroll down to find the name of your school. You can use the filters here to do that. But really the goal is just to make sure who we have on file is who you have on file. You may find people that need to be removed. You might find people that you're like, wait a minute, I feel like they had access or they need access. Like I said, it is a difficult process to keep all of these accounts on track because we have so much turnover and we have a lot of forms that come through. So there may be variances here and there. We also have people who transfer schools. So we'll have somebody that's in our database that's at one school and maybe they're now at a new school. Those changes do happen. So really it's just identifying the discrepancies and then you're going to send those through to us to make sure that all the accounts are within compliance. Okay, so moving on. So let's just say, like I said, we're working with ABC University and we said, okay, Pluto Dog needs to be removed. He's no longer working at ABC University. And also we want Daisy Duck, she's the director. She's like, wait a minute, I need Helmnet access because I need to log in and look at loan accounts. So I need to add that. So we're going to pretend and we're going to fill out a user access form. So lucky you, I already have it pulled up. So what you see on the screen is a user access to web portals form. This was updated very recently, so you'll want to make sure that you have the current copy on file in case you saved the former form. We will not be accepting those. And the way you can tell is if you scroll down, it has an as of date of August on it. So if yours doesn't have this August 21st date, then you need to replace your copy. At the top of the form, you're going to notice the purpose of the form. Again, it kind of goes through exactly what I mentioned before. This is what you can do with the form, whether you can remove, add, update the different portals. It'll list it here in this purpose section. The requirements section is just to help you understand the importance of updating access. Like I mentioned, when people leave your institution or change areas, if they are not reported to the coordinating board, they maintain that access, and that can be a huge security risk for students because that means that they can still log in from anywhere and access things like social security numbers, date of birth, addresses, contact information. So it's really critical that you're maintaining your list of users so that we don't have any kind of breach of information. So that's what this section is describing. The most critical is Move It DMZ because Move It DMZ is a institutional account. It's not issued by individual. And so again, if someone is logged in and they don't work for your institution anymore, they have a lot of information at their fingertips, but we are not able to tie that back to an individual user. So we'll talk about Move It in just a moment and kind of how you can make sure that you're maintaining security for Move It. Just as a heads up, if you're asking questions at this point, I can't see them because they're not on my screen, but I will circle back in a moment. Okay, so this first section of the form is institutional contact information. This does have to be a director of financial aid or higher. That's something that we require when we do our check so that not anyone can do that. So I'm going to say my name and then my FICE code, which is the same as your OPEID. And then, oops, that's institutions. I'm not even paying attention. We said it was ABC University. Help if I was reading. Okay, there's my name and my phone number. You're lucky, that's my real phone number at the office. Okay, so I'm going to say I'm the director, aid, and then my email. A lot of pressure to type in front of y'all. I don't want to mess up. Okay, so as you see, when you type the institution name, it automatically pulls down here. One thing that I will recommend is use the fillable form. We do get some that are they're filled out by pen, which is fine. It just makes it harder for us to process on our end, and it seems to be a little bit more work on your end as well. It also doesn't allow for an e-signature, so if you can, we recommend using the fillable form. That's by far the best way. Okay, so as you fill this out, you'll notice that we have a box here that says check a box if you're the new or interim director completing this form. And the reason is because if you're the new one, then we don't have you listed in our record. So this tells us to replace the old one. It also tells us to remove all of their access. And then when we do that, we're also going to issue out a new Move It password so that if the director or anyone who has that old password tries to log in, that's deactivated. So I'm not a new director, so I'm not going to mark that right now. But I'm going to scroll down, and you can go ahead and e-sign the form at the top, or you can fill it out and circle back. But either way, you do have to sign the form. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And mine pops up here. And because I signed these forms, should attach in just a second. Okay. Each place has a different method on how the e-signature attaches. So let me just add that. And it should pop on there. There's my digital signature. I'm going to add today's date. And then as I scroll, we're going to look at the different sections. So when I typed in my information as director, it automatically populates here as the authorizing official. And again, if we had a different director, then we would replace it based on that checkbox. If you have changes to your designees, that's when you would enter them into these two lines. If you don't have any changes to your designees, you will leave that blank. What a designee is intended to do is to be a backup for the director. So if the director is on vacation or they're out sick or they're just not available, the designee has the ability to call in and request a reset on the password or get assistance with Move It. We don't want everyone to have that ability because it's an institutional account. If you've got probably 4 or 5 different areas that are working on things such as FADs, and then you've got someone working on loans, you've got someone else doing work study, you've got somebody else doing grant payments. There's different things that are going on in Move It. And so if someone calls in to reset that password, it could inadvertently lock out a bunch of other people. So we're real hesitant and very careful when we update the passwords for Move It because we know it has a bigger impact. But that being said, when people come and go, it's very critical for the institution to either notify us or to go into the account and reset that password on your own. And that will help ensure security. If someone on your team leaves and they have that password, we can update that so that no one can enter the system and download information. So in this example, if I go back to my spreadsheet here, there's Minnie Mouse has access to Move It, but you can have up to 2 people. Let me see here. Let me filter this again. So the director automatically has access to Move It, and then you can have 2 designees. So Minnie Mouse already has access, and you have to make the decision on if you want a second one. I have a very small school. I don't need 2 designees, so I'm just going to leave Minnie Mouse. And so what that means on my form is I don't need to add anything on there. I already know that she's the right person. Don't need to add anyone else. But in the event you have a designee on your list because they show Move It and you don't want them on there, you can leave this blank. We will remove the designee. You can replace it by adding a different name in here. So I hope that makes sense. So if you have designee number 1 is already there and you're like, they don't work here anymore, you need to replace it here with a new name. And if you have questions, you can send it through Contact Us on, how to go about the process, because I understand this is not the most straightforward process. It's very complicated to update on our end. So we can assist you at any time. Now, the more frequent requests are through Helmnet. So whenever someone needs access to the Helmnet system, which is the Higher Education Loan Management System, they do have to submit this form to either add or update the account information. So a lot of the forms that we receive are new accounts. So this is when you have a new staff member on your team, you're going to add the account here. So going back to my list, like I said, Daisy Duck does not have an account through Helmnet. So even though she's the director, I still have to add that to the form. Just because you mark the new director box will not add them automatically as a person to the accounts, because not all directors need access to stuff. They can kind of choose which people. So which people need it. I'm just going to put director Bethany. See, y'all are testing my typing skills here. Okay. And then I'm going to put new user. Now, you might be saying, well, what's the update user? Update user is going to be, for example, maybe I just got promoted to director. And so previously I was assistant director, or maybe I was a counselor or anything like that. If you're updating your access, that means you already have an account, but something changed. For example, another example is if you got married and your last name changed and you want to update your information, you'll select the update box and then you type in whatever it was previously. So in this example, I was assistant director and now I'm the director and my name changed. Let's say it was, that's really my maiden name, just so y'all know. Okay, and then my phone number did not change because even though I changed roles, my phone number is the same. So you see here, when we get it at the coordinating board, we're going to update our records to now be the director. I'm going to update the last name, and then I'll send the confirmation to the school. So that's an example. You'll notice here that there's only so many spaces. So for this annual review, what we often see is multiple forms for schools that are larger, and that's okay. You may actually need more space for this because you have more than the 4 access that's allowed. Like you're going to have a lot of different accounts. We've seen as many as 20 at one time. So if you need to, you can save multiple copies of this form and send that through, and we'll update our records. The last section on the form is removal access. So if you have someone who's left, been promoted, changes roles, anything like that, and you find them on here, so we're going to go back here and say, we talked about Pluto. Pluto Dog is no longer employed and should not have access to Helmnet. We need to add that to the form. So you'll notice that there's 4 boxes in this application. The first 3 here in this little L shape that I'm making are related to CB Pass. So this is grant payments, grant payment portal, financial aid database, Good Neighbor program, and then Helmnet. On the list, Pluto only had access to Helmnet. So we're going to just add that here. Okay, so I'm going to do Leah, Smalley. I'm just keep using my, oh wait, I'll do Pluto. Let me grab his, that might be faster. Copy Pluto, there we go. Pluto Dog, and no longer employed at ABC. Okay. I'm pretending that y'all are not laughing at me on mute. Okay, so that's an example of removing him. Now let's just say we had somebody else just for demonstration purposes. We have Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse has grant payments, and that's it. So we could do that one as well. Yeah, Mickey Mouse has grant payments, but does not need to be removed from Helmnet. So Mickey, I'm going to take his email here. There, Mickey Mouse. And we said grant payments. So he still needs Helmnet, but he needs grant payments. Again, you might have somebody who's no longer employed. You would have to remove all of it. Okay, so if we see that they're no longer employed, but you only selected one, we're going to remove them from everything because we figured they're not going to need access to anything. It's probably just an oversight, or you'll get your form back kicked back saying it has an error on it. We try and catch those little details, but just know that if you mark somebody's no longer employed and you don't mark all the appropriate things that they have, then we're gonna automatically remove them. So, but again, this one I'll say no longer doing grant payments. Still needs Helmnet. Okay, and that's it. When I get to the bottom of the form, you'll notice that there is a submit button. Again, I already filled out the rest of the document and I e-signed it. When I click on the submit button, this is contingent on your browser. Some people's it does not work. So you have two options. If you click submit and it does not work like mine does, you can do a save as. So you're downloading the e-signed version and then you can email it to this user access box. Ideally, it will work, and when you click on it, this pops up a little box and it asks you how you want to attach it. And then it's going to launch my email. And I forgot I have my email closed because of the webcast, so it's going to load it for just a moment. Let me open it so that we can pretend. And the reason I like to do that is because I physically want people to see what it does when it attaches, because I feel like that's helpful. And I apologize, it's so slow. We'll give it another second. If it doesn't work, I'll just move forward. But when it does the attachment, it saves the e-signed copy and it will automatically populate the correct email address that it needs to be sent to. I don't know why it's not working. It's typical when you're in a virtual world and you're trying to show people things. So again, I apologize, but when you do that, it'll automatically send it to user access. Once we receive it on our end, we'll review the form and then we will update the accounts that you're requesting to be changed. And then we will email you back letting you know that it's been done. So the last step on here, if we go either to the memo or we go to the spreadsheet, is step number 3, which is our survey. When you click on the survey, a SurveyMonkey page will pop up. And on here in the beginning, we reinforce yet again, we have the spreadsheet, the form, and then the survey. We try and kind of embed them in everything we do. So that way, if you are on one document, you don't have to keep toggling back and forth. So again, once you pull up the survey, we're going to scroll down to the middle of the page because this is where the survey actually begins. And it says that it's due again by November 13th of this year. It's only a few more weeks. And you're answering this first question, which is a verification statement. The first one saying, I reviewed all of my accounts and I confirm that it's correct and I don't need anything done. All flawless. Again, a lot of smaller schools, we see this because staff is smaller. There's not a lot of turnover and a lot of changes. And then other schools, we have lots of changes, and that's fine too. That's the whole point of this review. The second one is you reviewed your list and you do have changes. So you have to decide. So for mine, I said that we had changes. I filled out my form. I submitted that in, and then I'm going to fill this out. So this is ABC University. And then I told you it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And my email address again. Okay. And then you hit done. And once you hit that, then we will be expecting your user access form. So you do have to kind of coordinate when you're doing that. We recommend doing them at the same time. Otherwise, what happens is kind of a chase to get the form. So we'll have the survey, but we won't have the form, or vice versa, and it gets a little confusing. But that does happen sometimes. So just to avoid having to delete this survey, I'm not going to hit submit for now, but when you do, it'll say your survey has been completed. So one question you may be wondering is, do I get a confirmation? And the answer is you don't automatically get a confirmation other than what pops up on the screen. What we try and do every year, and this will start this week, is you will get an email confirmation from our staff. So if you've already submitted something through, you might be saying, oh, I never got a confirmation. That's because when we sent this out last week, we had a flood of forms come through. So we are trying to get those updated, and you will receive a confirmation. So just hang tight, give us grace. This is always a very interesting time in the year because we get user access forms all year long, but this user access process and this project, it generates a lot of extra activity for the team. So it does take some time to get through all the forms. Okay, so we went through all of the different steps. I'm now back on the presentation, and I'm going to go through getting in touch with us. So if you have questions on user access, we're requesting that you send it through Contact Us. Please don't send your questions through the user access mailbox. We're trying to only collect the forms through there. When you have a question, you can now call us. If you didn't know, our financial aid institutional phone line is now open. We opened it last week, and we are trying to see how the phones operate in a virtual environment since our staff is still working remotely, but it is available. The number that you can call is 844-792-2640. Again, we just opened it up, so if there's any issues, please be patient with us. We're working very hard to make sure that the phones are running again. So I'm very excited because, again, for user access questions, I know that was a frustrating experience over the past few months, is if you got locked out or anything else, you can't really get a hold of someone quickly. And now you'll be able to do that, and they'll be able to walk you through the process. Now, in the event you have a general question or you're not pressed for time, we recommend sending it through Contact Us, which is on our main website. You can either click our Contact Us link. There's also an inquiries link at the bottom of our pages, and you can do any of those items. And I'm going to go through exactly how to fill that out because that's the critical piece when submitting a Contact Us to get something timely. So when you fill out the Contact Us form, regardless of what the question is, if it's going to financial aid services, it has to be filled out a specific way. So the first thing you do is you have to click institution in the drop-down box. The second is type in your institution name until it appears, or make sure that it's clear. And the reason is because we issue out tickets based on institution type. So public schools go to certain people, privates, and so on. The next thing, and this is the most critical, is you need to select financial aid question. So if it's user access, if it's a loan question, if it's a loan processing question, if it's eligibility, anything associated with financial aid and the coordinating board needs to go to financial aid question. Even though there's other ones in the list that may make sense, they will get to us eventually, but not as timely as selecting financial aid question. Next, you'll want to enter the description. The more information you put in the description, the better, because that will help us avoid going back and forth with additional follow-up. And then one of the other most important new things that I'm communicating is please send your phone number, your direct phone number, because if we get a description or we have questions on your request, if we can call you, then we're going to get it resolved that much more quickly. You do have to enter all your contact information, but we often either get no phone number or we get the main line, and then we get caught in a holding pattern where we can't get a hold of you. So that's very helpful. And that's it as far as submitting those to us. This is the end of the presentation. If you have questions, I see my little chat box blinking, so hopefully we can go through those questions in just a moment. On here, I have my contact information. You probably saw it like at least 5 or 6 times. You probably have it memorized. If you have something related to this presentation, go ahead and email me directly. Otherwise, use the Contact Us steps that I just showed you, so that way I can route it off to a team member to assist you. And then I have a survey there that I send out on every webcast just so I can get feedback on usefulness, on how I delivered it, technical issues, and more importantly, what topics you want training on. So that helps me prepare for future months. So if you can take a few moments to do that, I really appreciate it. I know we don't have a lot of time, so we only made it a few questions, so it's nice and easy. And then lastly, what are your questions? I'm going to toggle over to the box here and see if we have any that have come through. I do see since I originally started, there's more people on the line. So if you missed the presentation in the beginning, this is being recorded and I will be posting this online to our webcast archive page. All of the webcasts that I do are recorded and saved there, and it usually takes about a week. So you should see it by next week, if not sooner. Okay, so I don't see anything in here. I did so great. Y'all don't have any questions. That's incredible. I'm just kidding. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type in the chat box. If you don't have any questions, feel free to get the gift of time and you can hang up at any point. But I'm going to stay on just for a few minutes and see if there's questions I can answer. And then we'll wrap up. And like I said, I'll get it posted for y'all. So anyone have user access questions that I can answer on the form, on the survey, timelines, anything like that? I see people dropping off, so that's a good thing. That means I told you all the information that you needed to know. And if you didn't get the information, again, please reach out to me either directly, you can send it through Contact Us, or you can call that 844 number that I listed. All right, I see no movement on the chat box. That usually indicates I'm good to go. So I hope y'all have a wonderful week. I really hope this was helpful and got you some additional information on what the process is and what you need to submit. And have a wonderful week. Thank you again. Have a great day.